Hi everyone, it's John Galante, president of A Ventures, here with another Builder Innovator webcast. My guest today is the great Jen Cooper, also known as Jennifer Cooper. She's the fractional CMO, the founder of Evolution Marketing, and this really has to do with offers and feature sets and how do you respond appropriately with your product, and most importantly, in terms of Jen's area of super expertise. She's got a lot of areas of expertise, but her superpowers are on the marketing side of things. So how do we take those things that we know buyers are looking for or that are dispositive in the decision-making process on whether they'll buy and address them forcefully with marketing? That's what you're going to cover, right?
I think so.
Okay. We're going to springboard off of research from our friends at Zillow New Construction, who do an annual consumer housing trends report. You know, it is statistically significant out the wazoo, I think is the term of art. It's over 10,000 responses, right? And Zillow, think about the millions of people that are going every month to Zillow to search. Their business is market research. It's coming at them intrinsically in their business. So we so value these data points that we get from our friends at Zillow. Okay. Episode 1, marketing that responds to buyer demand for environmental resilience and quality of construction. I think sometimes we think about resilience and these environmental factors is like, that's for what we see in the New England here, the earthy, crunchy crowd, the tree huggers, they care about it. But evidently it's more than that, because climate and disaster resilience has super high interest levels from buyers. And that's cool. And that's a differentiator like crazy for new versus used.
Things are changing for a reason, because natural disasters and different things are coming into our world every day. So yeah, we got to pay attention. And if the buyer was never asked this question, we didn't know the data. We didn't have the data. So great question, Zillow.
Like, we know we're all trying to address these things, and we've got a whole new set of tools in some of the building materials that address resilience. Yet there's this lingering perception about quality of construction, right? I like to talk about the, this old home, this resale home, it's all chopped up. It's decorated in harvest gold and avocado green, but it's got good bones. And we got to make the case that new homes are better bones. It's clear from this research point, there's this lingering perception that a new home is shoddily constructed. And even if we're just building the code and not above code, the code has improved. The code is better than it was 30, 40 years ago. It's considering these effects on the resiliency side of things. So we got to do a better job of making this point to win the buyers. And how are we going to do that?
The bottom line, again, is understanding what's important to the customer. So getting this type of research and really thinking maybe demographically, you may have areas where there's been hurricanes, floods, things of that nature that are even more of a dominant thing that's in the back of people's minds when they're buying a home. So across this whole mini series, we're talking about different technologies, smart home, new versus used, all of those things. It's really about, again, getting the building industry to step into where we are today and not continue to be in the footsteps of the past, and we're looking at it different. So, I really want to talk about how do we market some of those new standards into those construction components. So one, you have to look and work with I always say marketing should be sharing this type of information with your leadership team, then with your purchasing team and your construction team, and say, what are we doing to maybe address these needs? Do we have enough materials and enough innovation in our construction pipeline to say that we're addressing, obviously this is a growing area? Then that changes our value proposition. So it doesn't start with marketing or end with construction. That's another identifier that these teams can come together to address this need. And so when you do have some of those identified, some of those standards and some of those absolutes, think about how you can rally around that gold standard in construction. That's such a strong word. One that invites, what is that? What does that mean? And each builder can pay that off to different levels. And even if they're not maybe using the most innovative, crazy materials, some of the things I'm going to talk about today, you can still find where do you know that you're meeting or exceeding those codes. Because many times builders are. I'm finding that they are, and they dismiss it like it's not a value point, but it is a value point, and the consumer doesn't know what they don't know. So always think about when you're marketing, how can you pull this up to the front line as something different, knowing these quality things are so important. So thinking about your appliances, energy efficiency. I would say the buyer doesn't know what that means. They know it's a logo on some of their appliances. Talk about what that means. Even if it's to code and everybody does it to code, the buyer doesn't know. Pay it off. Explain it. Explain why it's important, and it'll save them money.
The codes are basically elevating by their nature, they're elevating the construction standards from previous, right? That's what's been happening. We don't take the code and go back. We don't go down. At least to date, we haven't. Do we as an industry have a marketing guide to what building to code now is versus code 10 years ago, code 20 years ago, code 30 years ago?
As marketers, we have to think outside the box and think of where's the value in the education point. And yes, that's the code. Well, why was it put in? Sometimes there are codes where there's no amazing factor around it. It just is a change. But if we can look at those and read into, wow, that's actually going to improve efficiency, or wow, that's going to improve the cycle time with the product, or that's going to be less headache for warranty, right? More safety for our customers. So if we can find what those points are, put those out there again, because we know it's in a construction manual, it's in how we're building, but the customer doesn't know. So put it in front of them, right? It's like looking at the ingredients on bread. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it organic? We don't know unless we're educated on what those ingredients mean.
I think we don't use code as a marketing differentiator because we think our only competitors are other builders, and they have to build to code too, when we need to recognize our chief competitor is the resale home. Okay?
Yes, sir. That was a great point. Absolutely a great point. We should find a marketing nugget in just about everything, if anything, if you try. To move past the slide, other things we look at is fortified gold. So if you have a fortified gold standard, like some of my builders in the South, you're building for hurricane resiliency. That's really important. Not going to have maybe the same sticking power in other states. How you're using your zip barriers for more humid, heavy environments. And then how are you looking at your efficiency ratings? Are you doing blow tests with your home to check that? Those all don't sound super fancy, like how your tile and your countertops are, but they matter, and it's in the quality equation. So figure out how to rise that in to your guest presentation, in your marketing, in your social media, because there's a lot of value in that. And we know the customer is looking for it. Customers really want, kind of in addition to some of that data that we saw on when they're thinking through how does the home going to live in different environments and sustainability, they're also thinking about home health. This is a rising trend. Looking at clean air, again, even kind of that post-COVID timeframe, we're thinking more about our air quality. In some markets more so than others. Lots of sunlight, nature, a lot of the biophilic feel and plants are very, very important. How you can maybe grow your own kitchen. We've seen some of the gardens growing in communities. How do we kind of bring that feel into our home? The spa atmosphere, it's very much trending as we're seeing more Japandi tubs and things in the homes. Indoor outdoor living continues to grow, activity spaces, having security, and really creating community. Community creates mental health. So these are all things. Again, it's not selling the floor plan, the Gemini, it's 2,500 square feet. It's an X community. It's the health of the home, which really can resonate from the outside into the inside. The future is looking more and more like we're going to have to be turning to these sustainable futures. Again, some of these details are featured in some of the Trends Tuesdays that I present on a weekly basis. And so that's looking at things like cost and affordability. How do we lower those costs? We know affordability is a big piece of our future makeup in the home building industry. So how do we make things more eco-friendly, more accessible, more technologically advanced? Thinking about our consumer awareness, how are we creating more education campaigns to boost demand for sustainable housing? We know that there's interest in it, but the consumer's not seeing a lot of marketing around that. So we have the opportunity to create these education pieces. It's definitely where we have room to grow as an industry. Policy and regulation, we're assuming there will be more incentives for eco-friendly developments in the future. So What are we doing in our regions? How are these Builder 20 groups getting together and talking about this conversation is super important. And then involving your marketing to know what are you going to be doing as a builder to make advances with regulation change and advances with being more sustainable builder in your area. Thinking through infrastructure planning, urban planning, and how are you prioritizing having more sustainable designs, and then adaptability and resilience. How are we going to address some of the future climate changes, and how are we thinking through, kind of getting over these concerns with floods and fires and all of the things that have been affecting our world more so in recent years. So these should all be parts of the conversation because it's in the media, it's in front of the consumer mindset's changing, and this is the most important purchase they're going to make. So we have to keep all of these sustainable features in the boardroom in these conversations as we're building.
I agree. I worry about the word sustainable, though, in terms of its political acceptability to all the buyers out there. So I do think that a language scrub is important. There's a lot of terminology that was developed at a high level in the vendor community 4 or 5 years ago that's out of vogue. But that doesn't mean that the benefits are out of vogue. You just need to figure out a way to recast some of it.
Some key trends that we're seeing around kind of the sustainable, I'm going to use that term a little bit here, but I think we all know what it means, is with tech forward home features. I think this is interesting. We've had an increase in electronic cars, power generation, energy management systems up, solar panels are up, everything is up, security systems, air replenishment. How do you keep your home, that healthy air is super important. Net zero homes, 26% up. We can talk about those in a minute. And automated lighting control. So everything from tech to managing that efficiency. Again, we're becoming a more technologically advanced society. Our homes need to start to trend that way. And we're seeing that this interest and adoption is growing. This is data. The data survey says, right? The data is important. It's telling us a story. Within the sustainable home, we're seeing that paint, this is just a couple examples. Paint that self-cleans and purifies the air. There's some new technologically advanced paint out there that not only just doesn't put off chemicals, but can be part of the cleaning solution. Just again, there's new products emerging every day. I think it's so interesting for us to take a look at those. Thinking through even down to how electricity affects our bodies. We are electric and our homes are electric. So there's some new products out there that help promote better sleep with putting kind of like a shield over some of the wires to keep down some of those electromagnetic forces in the home. Super important. It's a silent cell and just different things to think about the home. Transparent wood, looking at something that's stronger than plexiglass, stronger than glass, safer, energy efficient. Looking at other sustainable materials, using bamboo, different types of wood in the home. That might be lighter, longer lasting, more micro, not carrying as much micro agents, microbial. Or microbial? I don't have the word. Microbial agents. So I think there's a lot of stay on top of the research. I know when we go to IBS and different shows, we'll see some of these new materials, but maybe find one that's worth trying and beta testing, again, to stand out and say, hey, as a builder, we're looking at some of these innovative materials. We don't have to adopt them all, but is there one or two in your wheelhouse that you think would be great for your market? Think about from your builder standpoint, what will you own and what role will you play, in the sustainability and being more environmentally conscious. Misawa Homes, that's actually, I work with Misawa Homes, their parent company, a visionary, and they're committed to creating a carbon neutral, basically footprint. And they're developing energy saving, zero energy homes. That's a very big initiative that they're doing over in Japan. And they're sharing that information with their US based builders to see if we can infiltrate at any point in time, maybe eventually, some of those technologies. So I think it's interesting for builders to be watching the sphere of what other builders are doing. And again, if that will become eventually, potentially some of Visionary's story. So I'm watching that and learning from that, over on the Japanese side to see where and when would we maybe bring some of the technologies and learnings over to the US. And there are some builders that are doing that. Satsui House is doing some things around some very innovative technologies and use of materials, earthquake resistant, things of that nature. It's already happening over here. With Misawa, again, this is where they're creating that marketing statement. So they're looking at the energy efficiency of the design. They're looking at how the microclimate of the design, how the woods and how they're recycling some of the waste into the design. So there is a marketing story. Again, it's over there right now for the product, but they're creating a marketing story, a value proposition that's making them stand out in that market.
So, Jen, let's just talk a little bit more about the marketing piece of this, right? Like, so there's storytelling on websites that could be done with copy and photos. It could be done videographically. What about the experiential side at a model house or in a sales center or something like that? Any thoughts that
Yeah.
you there to
Well,
hit?
I love when we can think about what does it mean to walk into our retail storefronts, because I do consider the model home as a retail storefront. And if you create a selling space, that's the time they're there to be educated. They're there front. Our buyers are there front and center to get all of the information. It's not just, I'm not just there to give you my order for a 2-story home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or whatever. So putting it in your displays, whether it's digital and or more of a retail storefront display, is important. Many times the customer needs that paid off. They don't understand the construction, the spray foam installation, how our windows work or how the UV protection is. They don't necessarily understand energy efficiency and how those efficiency savings add up. So I do a lot of things around silent sales to create those little moments in the home. But the biggest thing is teaching your sales team to make it a very deep part of their solution. And many times it's asking questions. Do you understand how a home can be more efficient? Are you interested in that? If they're not interested, don't go down the road. But many times they're going to say, I don't quite understand energy efficiency ratings. I don't quite understand how I could save more money in this home versus another. And if they are worried and concerned about the quality of craftsmanship, you have the opportunity to share everything from how the windows are put into the home to how the spray foam or your installation process is, to how you're using moisture barriers. It's very much should be an on-demand exploration. So if I'm searching for quality homes online, quality new homes, well-built homes, there's like a million ways that someone could type in those search words. If you have that content on your website, they're going to find you. When they come into the sales office, they should see the same thing. And your sales team needs to really champion some of those proof points. And it's usually more around what size home, how many bed and bath, what has you move into the area, it's moving on.
What is the silent sale that you mentioned?
So silent sales, I'm going to talk about those a little bit in another episode. But I've done silent sales when you're walking into the home and just talking about that. On average, this home may save you $1,200 a year in energy bills, and paying that off in how we do the rating, their energy rating for the home, and just putting that immediately says this house is going to save me money. That's the first silent sale that you're seeing walking into the home. Silent sales can also mean wayfinder signage coming into the community or walking through the homes that are slowly selling you if your house is energy smart, if you have that quality construction, if there is something built into, again, I work with a lot of builders, there's a lot of different scenarios, but whatever those proof points are, from smart tech to quality materials to innovative design, sustainability, you can make those just in signage that no one's speaking, they're just reading.
What do you think that is in people's minds when they think about quality of construction? Do they think about the home? They think about it falling apart, right? Is my, if I was like, hey, that's a shabby home, it's going to fall apart. Like the eaves are going to drop down, the roof's going to, and to me, and maybe I'm wrong, it's like, it's the flooring. It's like, is it squeaky? Does it feel like, the curio with all of the glassware in it when you walk through the house is going to shake? I mean, what do you think the intangibles are that a buyer thinks of around quality? And are we able to address that experientially in a model home?
I think the word quality comes up because transparently, if you Google a lot of new home builders, there's not a lot of great reviews out there. And some even just have a bit of a track record from what their brand stands for, but maybe they're very cost affordable. And everybody has a friend that had a bad, I'm telling you, everybody has a friend that had a bad new home building experience. So all of those things resonate in the buyer's mind, but the way we can demonstrate quality is to actually demonstrate the windows and down to the thresholds, down to let's go ahead and do a jump test and talk about the insulation, sound in the home. Depending again on what your level of quality is, do have those conversations about how we're more superior in one area versus another. A lot of times you can do just demonstrating, and I'm going to talk about demonstrating in another episode, but just demonstrating what's in the walls. And sometimes you get a little different look at the bones of the house when you're down in the basement, especially an unfinished basement, and talking about all of the pieces of the organs of the home that are kind of running in there, how they're constructed, how they work, how you maintain them. There's quality and reassurance by you walking me through that I understand all of the heartbeat of the home.
Do you think that a lot of sales associates don't have the instinct to take the buyer down into the basement and talk about that stuff if they feel like things are going well, just looking at the finishes and the finished space?
Absolutely. I'm not saying they all do, but I don't see it consistently in the experiences when I've shopped. So, but again, if the builder says this is important, we want to take them top to bottom through the home, they should be doing that at their demonstration walks too. But it can be part of the initial setup to really understand the bones of the construction and where that quality resonates. And if you hear a buyer asking these quality questions, that should be like, we're going to need to go deeper on this one. This isn't so much about fit and finish. This is about, maybe they had a family member that had a horrible experience and they just don't want to go through that again.
I mean, it's pretty telling on this chart for quality to be above style, because we talk style all the time, but we do not talk quality much because it's harder to talk about. It's harder to frame it.
We jump between, like looking at this, we jump between style, aesthetic, and how are you going to finance and budget kind of come together. But it's like, what do you want? This is how cool my house is. Let's get you into the house, right? So those are pretty rallying. So I like to see that quality is up there. I think customer service is important, but interestingly enough, in this data, it's part of the mix, but it's on the lower end. Because if that's not there, none of this other stuff matters.